Hi, today on Kitschy Cookery we are going to be making meatloaf and meatballs. And can I tell you, this is so easy. You start with like a base of a lot of meat, and then you can split it in half and make a couple different things. So I hope you will stick with us and watch it, and always remember to like and subscribe down below, and let's get on to cooking. Hi, today we're making meatloaf. I'm just warming my pan up so that I can saute some vegetables. And as usual, I have my onion, not celery, bell pepper, and some finely grated carrot, because you know I've got to put veggies in my meatloaf, even though it's a meatloaf. So I'm also going to be putting in some chopped mushrooms. But what I'm going to be doing first is cooking them and drying them out and getting them a little toasty. If you put them in when they're wet like this, they will make your meatloaf rubbery. You don't want to do that. That's gross. And then I have a little bit of garlic that's also going to go in. Now, the nice thing about this is I'm primarily talking about meatloaf, but I'm actually going to split this. I'm going to make a base mix of meat and veg and some seasoning, and then I'm going to split that into two, and out of one batch I'm going to make a meatloaf, and out of another batch I'm going to add a couple more ingredients, and I'm going to make meatballs. So it's really great if you want to make this base mix, and then you can make multiple things out of it without having to do too much extra work. So I'm going to go ahead and get my veggies in and get those sweating up nicely. Gonna grab right past the camera. I'm gonna grab my little salt cellar and sprinkle a little bit of salt on here, just to kind of help bring the juices out of the veg and start getting them going here. One thing I'm going to do is, after I sweat these a little bit, I'm actually going to take them out of the pan and put them back in the bowl, and then do my mushrooms, because I don't want the mushrooms to absorb more liquid. I'm trying to dry them out, not make them moister. So we're going to go ahead and cook this up a little bit, and then we will get started on some assembly. Look how pretty that is. I like those colors. It's like the Irish flag.
A lot of flags. A lot of flags.
Anywho, so we'll get
like the Jamaican flag too.
Ooh, wait, is it? I don't know.
It's orange in the flag, isn't there? Or is it yellow?
Oh, maybe it's orange and yellow and green. I don't know.
No,
it's black. It's orange, black.
Okay, well, look it up. Look up the Jamaican flag and let us know
if we're
wrong.
My geography professor would kill me right now.
Yeah, well, he might be dead, so.
He probably is, actually. It's been a long time.
Can't come and get you if he's in the grave.
I'm going to let that cook. You can keep the camera on this. I'm going to grab a couple of eggs out of the fridge. Actually, I'm going to grab a couple eggs out of our little egg basket here, I think.
Yeah, they've been laying pretty good.
They have been laying pretty good. So but this is going to go over here for when we mix the stuff together. So I'm going to put those right there. I just want to make sure that I have all my ingredients out. I got my pan ready. And you know, some people just chop the vegetables up and throw them in the meatloaf. I don't do that because I'm not a huge fan of super crunchy stuff in my meatloaf. I want it to be a nice tender.
You want it to be leaf meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Like loaf meat.
Loaf of meat.
Not vegetables with meat.
True. So, so I like to cook mine ahead of time, and that takes the edge off of them, so to speak.
What's some of the coolest variations you've seen of meatloaf? Because you make your own version, but we've seen so many different.
Oh, and I've made other versions too. There was one I made. Oh God, it's a while back now. That was I think it was like a cheddar and Guinness meatloaf, and that was pretty good. But you know, sometimes it can be a bit rich. A friend of mine I saw on Instagram that he just recently made one with. Trying to think of what he made it with. He made the meatloaf and then he put caramelized onions and Gruyere cheese on the top. So that looked pretty good too, you know.
Yeah, and then we were talking about Jane earlier. She put oatmeal in hers.
She did. Well, she's kind of health nut. So what she would do is she would use ground turkey. Pretty much, I think she used ground turkey exclusively actually, and then she would use like the heavier rolled oats to instead of breadcrumbs and milk. So, you know, but it's all to what you want to do. My friend Jan, when she made her meatloaf, she would actually cut it the big chunks of pepper and onion, and she also would just very roughly like tear up a couple pieces of white bread. So when you cut into her meatloaf, you would see these chunks of veg, and also like pieces of bread sometimes that weren't broken down as much.
It's really where you're from and what you like.
Right. I really like the way I'm going to be doing it later, and I'll explain it to you when we get over there. But it really helps the bread to break down when you're doing something like this.
This might be our longest video.
Well, I hope not. You know,
they're getting longer every day. Every time we do a video, they get like 20, 30 minutes.
You can't just do recipes that have 2 ingredients. You know what I mean? So you have to give it time to cook. I guess you could cut away and we'll come back when this is done. We could do that.
True. I think I will.
Okay. Garlic. You know, it's kind of hard sometimes. Getting the right angle on that.
I just realized I'm eating snacks in our video.
Oh well. This will make you hungry, all this cooking.
Yeah. But also, you can hear my crunching.
Well, that's like if you've ever noticed when we're standing over in the other section, you hear like water running. It's our cat fountain.
You can see it right there in this video.
Yeah.
It's a water
we
feature.
Have a bunch of spoiled cats for sure. So you see how that's getting nice and dry, and I'm just letting the garlic get aromatic. And I think I am going to do something when we cut to me making the meatballs. Mm-hmm. I am going to probably put this in my food processor and mix it a little bit finer than this.
Because you feel like it's too chunky.
I do for meatballs, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the basic thing, and then I will separate some of this out because I'm going to separate it into 2 bowls anyway, one for meatloaf and one for meatballs.
Is this about done?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna get
bring my bowl over here.
Be careful. It's heavy.
Sorry, I'm not trying to do my back to the camera, but this thing is very heavy.
No. Keep going. I can move.
Yeah. This pot is very heavy.
Cast iron.
Okay. Set that down. Come here, you. It's okay if a few vegetables are on there, but we just don't want a huge amount. And then I'm going to put these babies in.
You're going a little fast for me, lady.
Sorry.
You're like, cooking is never this slow. Right?
Right.
Well, normally you're just doing it on your own.
Exactly.
So now you're going to sweat out these?
I am. I'm going to get them nice and dry and toasty. Make sure that we get all the liquid out of them.
Because they're fun guys.
Yeah. Party in the pan with the fun guys. Oh, man. Okay, put that there. You can see already, if you come over here, you can see that they're already releasing a lot of moisture.
Oh yeah, I see the wet in the pan.
Yeah, look at that.
You go a little closer.
Yep, if you put that in your meatloaf, yeah, you'd end up with rubber.
Why is that? Do you know? Is it just some kind of chemical thing?
Well, they're just very spongy. And if you don't cook them and kind of like, I actually sort of crisp them up so they get a little bit of a nice glaze on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you didn't do that, you would, they just stay kind of rubbery. Look at all that.
Yeah, that's a lot of liquid.
And I'm going to be adding liquid to our meat anyway.
It smells very good.
Mm-hmm. Mushrooms cooking.
What kind of mushrooms are these?
They are a mix of just regular white mushrooms and those cremini mushrooms that we had a discussion about previously.
Yeah. What video was that?
That was last week's video when we did the
Chicken a la Queen.
Mm-hmm. And we had sort of a segue into the meatloaf. And that's what made us want to do it this week.
Yeah, meatloaf.
But you know, mushrooms add a lot of umami. Which is, you know, just means that they have a particular flavor, kind of like cheese and things that make your mouth go, I like it.
Umami. So we'll come back again when you're putting it all together, correct?
Yep, so we'll just let that cook for a little bit.
Well,
and we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So I hope you can see this. It's dried out quite a bit, starting to stick to the bottom of the pan a little bit. I'm going to cook this probably for maybe a minute or two more. I don't want it to stick too much, which is why I'm stirring it quite a bit. But it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. When did you start putting mushrooms and stuff in the meatloaf? Because I remember the meatloaf when I was a kid was a lot denser.
You okay?
I was having the hiccups. I'm snacking. It's hard.
I don't know.
Because I don't remember you always adding mushrooms.
No, I didn't. That's a relatively recent thing. I think I was looking at something on America's Test Kitchen, and they talked about adding them to add like another level of flavor to the meatloaf. But I used to always put onions, garlic, pepper, you know, stuff like that in it.
Bread, yeah.
Or breadcrumbs, yeah.
You did panko for a while.
Well, only if that's all I had, you know, because panko, you can soak it in like milk, but it takes a long time because it's really hard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off.
What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to put it in this bowl. And I actually took some of my mix out and put it in my food processor because, as I mentioned before, I am going to grind that a little finer for the meatballs. Okay. Set that down, move this up to heat. And then I'm just going to kind of break this up a little because, you know, I'm not going to mix this in with the ground beef when it's still pretty warm. So I'm actually going to take this and put it in the refrigerator for a few minutes and let it start cooling off. And then if you want to move over here,
okay,
I'm going to start
you have food process this?
Yeah, I can do that first. I'm just going to poach it for a couple of seconds.
You just want to get a little bit
finer. I don't want people finding big chunks of stuff in their meatballs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
so the process of separation has already happened.
Yeah.
Like the Vulcans and the Romulans. They cannot live together. Will there be a unification of the meatball and the meatloaf at some point, Mom? In our tummies, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, so we're over here now where we're going to mix up some stuff. And I've got a huge amount of meat in here, probably about 3 pounds of ground beef and about 3 pounds of ground pork. Because I figure, you know what, go big or go home. That's all there is to it. You gotta, you know, if you do this all at once, then you don't have to keep doing it. And you know what I do with my meatballs? Since we're not going to eat them tonight we're having meatloaf, I'm going to put them in the freezer and then bag them up. And whenever I want to make sauce, I can just pull them out and use them. So first thing I'm going to do is start mixing some of this meat up. And I just put my hands in it. I don't care. Mixing it together, getting it all mixed up together. And then I'm going to separate some of it into this other bowl. Because one of these is going to be the meatloaf and one of these is going to be the meatballs.
The separation begins.
It does. And you basically just want to get, you know, the meats kind of amalgamated or mixed in together.
You tell us more about this. What's that?
Oh, that is my That is my rosemary breadcrumbs in milk.
Yum.
So whenever I have leftover bread, and we have a really good bakery here in town that makes a really lovely rosemary loaf. So whenever I have extra of that, I grind it up and I put it in my freezer. And what I do is make breadcrumbs for this kind of stuff. I take it out and I put a little bit of milk in it. And there is a fancy name for it, and I can't remember off the bat what it is.
Milk bread.
You know, I've also done it with just like plain old white bread. Put a couple of slices of white bread in, and you make sort of a little paste out of it. And then it helps to bind and pull your stuff together. So see, that looks pretty well mixed.
So you've got like a couple different kinds of meat. You got like pork and beef in this?
Yeah, I've got about 3 pounds of beef and about 3 pounds of pork. So it's about 1 to 1.
What's the thought process? Because, I'm not a huge cooker person myself.
The thought process for having 2 kinds of meat?
Yeah.
Well, pork tends to be a little lighter and fattier, and it tends to lighten up the beef. I personally find a lot of ground beef pretty dense, especially if you're just putting it in a meatloaf by itself. Okay, so I'm going to take about half of this and go over here.
Take a bite of your family.
Oh,
That's going to be meatloaf.
Oh,
You're
my
going to be
goodness.
meatballs.
Actually, I might put a little bit of this back.
Yeah, put it back in the meatloaf.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We went home.
So,
Sorry,
there
am I
we
making
are.
you sad?
You're not making me sad.
You're like,
They'll all come together in our stomachs at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll be good. So anyway, throw this away.
Is that a little bit of fat?
Well, yeah. Some of this ground pork was pork that I ground myself, and it's a little bit of a coarser grind than the store-bought stuff. So, all right, so that's going to be our meatball. What I'm going to do right now is I've got my salt and pepper and my Worcester, which is going to go in the meatloaf mix. Come on out of there. Some of the Worcester sauce got mixed in there, I think.
That was probably someone on the crew. Some jerk.
Somebody on the crew.
Someone on the
Wash my
crew.
hands really quickly.
Good. See, she cleans her hands.
All the time.
Your food is very sanitary if you get it. I know. We've become the Olympic medalists of hand washing this year.
Pretty much.
It looks like she's got a jar of some home jarred tomatoes. And it looks like she got some bread, and I see some spices. I see some Parmigiano Reggiano.
That's going to be for the meatballs.
I can still show it, though.
Meatballs.
Are you going to do an Italian accent?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably add... Probably made too much of that, actually.
Explain this.
It's rosemary breadcrumbs, and I'm soaking them in milk so they can absorb it, and that helps to make the meatloaf and the meatballs tender. And it also helps break up the beef and the pork a little bit.
Nice.
Probably about half of this.
Yeah, because half of it's for the meatballs, right?
Yeah. And I might actually put a little less in the meatballs simply because it's a little less meat in here, I think.
I think we'll just do this as the same video.
We could do that.
A double meat header. It's getting intense every time we do a video. It's like double meat projects. At least they're not deep frying, right?
Anyway, and it maybe some people might think it's a little odd to be putting like milky bread in your meatloaf, but it actually works really well.
It does. It softens it. It gives it some moisture.
It does, and then the fact that it's the rosemary bread really helps it as well because it is it adds more flavor to it. So
Looking good.
I'm going to put this aside for just a second because we're waiting on our stuff to cool. Actually, though, I will open this up. This is these are my home stewed tomatoes, and
Can I take a look?
yeah, and I did these out of my garden tomatoes.
Ooh, they look good.
And, this is actually a water bath canned recipe. Normally you wouldn't do stewed tomatoes like that, but there is a particular recipe that I use. It'll be in the links below that comes out of one of the USDA state authorized agencies that developed this recipe to be safe for home water bath canning. So this is actually, some of this is actually going to go into our meatloaf mix.
It's a meatloaf.
I'm going to put this aside. I'll use this later for something else.
Oh, okay. You're not gonna, it doesn't go into meatballs?
Nope.
Oh yeah, because it already gets sauce.
Yep. So we got that going, and now I'm gonna get some seasoning. Now, I like to go to Costco sometimes.
R.I.P.
I
Hunter.
can never open.
Hunter used to work at Costco, so it was easier.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Hunter.
So I went today for the first time in like 4 months. Because since Hunter was working there, I didn't need to go. He could just pick up what I needed, which was nice. And what I'm gonna do, but I love this Spice Islands garlic and herb seasoning. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that in here. Probably about
2 tablespoons?
that's about a tablespoon and a half, I would say. And then I also have some of their Italian seasoning. And I'm going to put that. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of that in as well.
And these are for the meatballs.
These are for the meatballs, indeed.
Because you want that Italian sort of flavoring.
Yep. And then I'm going to take this beautiful thing, if I can get it open.
Parmesan Reggiano.
I just had a knife. And this is kind of what's going to give it the
sharpness.
the flavor of, you know, Italian kind of flavor. Let's see, I'll use my microzester.
Is it going to be pretty sharp? Like it adds a little bit of sharpness?
It's not Pecorino Romano, which I almost got some of that today. Parmesan is a little bit, sorry, it's a little slippery.
Your cattywampus.
Whoops, it's kind of breaking too.
Well, that's good.
Pecorino Romano is something I would use as well. I just happened to grab this today, and I didn't want to get too much cheese because we always seem to have a ton of cheese in the. Sorry,
no, you're good. Here. You're good. Hunter was the worst though. He would bring home cheese every day.
Oh, so much cheese!
I know, we had buckets of cheese.
I like a lot of cheese in my meatballs.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you put cheese in the meatloaf? Is it just not the flavor?
It's not. Well, I wouldn't put this kind of cheese. I don't want my meatloaf. I want my meatloaf to taste like meatloaf. I know that sounds weird. Meatballs to me have a different flavor.
Yeah, and they're supposed to complement like a sauce.
Yeah, pasta and things, you know?
Yeah. They're richer too.
Yeah.
Meatloaf, I think, is simpler.
In some ways, yeah. Well, because you don't have to sit there and do it by hand.
We should call this one the double header.
We should call this one the cheese queen. the cheese amongst us.
Look at that cheese.
So much cheese.
Down, these are the meatballs. And you'll see that this is
cheese over here.
The meatloaf.
Okay.
So no cheese, no spices, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now, where did my bowl go? Here it is. I'm going to put an egg in here. And we put the egg in there because we want it to bind up.
You're going to do egg in both, right?
I am. But I always like to... I'm sorry,
here, hold
my
on.
garbage is closed there.
Here, I'll close it up. Here.
I keep trying to open it.
It's open it for you.
Thank you. It's so much easier.
I know, you keep throwing it on the floor. You're like, whatever.
So let me think here for a minute. What else do I need in here? I want some black pepper, some ground pepper.
Get that pepper. Put that pepper in it. Like an Olive Garden in here. But better tasting.
I already put some in that one.
Yeah, it was in the little container.
Let me see how this is doing. This feels pretty cool already, so I'm going to go ahead and take that out.
Those ground up vegetables go right in the meatballs.
And now some people would just use, maybe grate some onion and garlic and put it in there. Like I said, I love the veg. I'm going to go on and on about the veg.
If you're not deep frying, you're putting vegetables and things.
Well, I gotta offset the deep frying, I guess. So let's see here. Okay. I think I might add a little bit of this. Actually, what I have, this is a little company that I've ordered from. They're really good. Called Spice Tribe.
You want to hold it up a little higher and put your hand behind it. Ooh. That makes the camera focus on it a little better. There we go. Spice Tribe. Where are they from? Tell us more about them.
They're from California, and they're kind of a little spice company. And what I like about it is this is the porcini, and it has porcini, rosemary, and garlic in it. So I'm going to add a little bit of that, and then
because more mushrooms. Why not?
yeah, right, more mushroom.
So
And
when you
the thing that I love is that they do a bunch of different ones, and we'll have to show recipes with this eventually. So they have like a masa mole, which is and then they have a California Love all-purpose chili blend.
Lovely.
So, but they have many different blends, and they're all blended from single origin spices, if I'm not mistaken. So, okay, so let's go ahead and let me just make sure this isn't too warm. I'm going to go ahead and mix this just a little bit. I don't know how I ended up on the meatballs first.
I don't know.
Oh, I know why, because we're waiting on the other vegetables to cool off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know either, but it looks really good. Maybe we'll have sauce and meatballs tonight instead.
Hey, Kenzie.
What do you need her for?
I'm going to have a roll of meatballs.
Oh. This is why you have kids.
That's why you have helpers.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put you to work rolling some meatballs in a moment.
Oh.
Would you get your pan ready?
Yeah.
And go ahead and put a piece of parchment paper on it, okay?
I should wash my hands first.
I'm going to mix these together.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
And you can do this with a spoon, or if you really don't like putting your hands in gooey stuff, or put gloves on. I've seen a lot of people online wearing gloves, but you know what? Again, I'm just here cooking for my family.
And assorted grandparents.
And I don't mind having goo in my hands.
You know, a lot of chefs do this. They just wear gloves.
Yeah.
You want me to get the big one?
No, you can get just a regular half sheet. And then I'm going to move her over to the other counter and have her...
We'll get a little glimpse of her making the meatballs.
Yeah.
So we can show them at the end all together.
Well, and you know what I do is you'll see that I have my little cupcake measurer right here.
Yeah.
It makes it much easier, because one of the things I found out about freehanding meatballs, because I usually make a huge batch of meatballs, is the meatballs would start out pretty normal size, like
You can tell Kenzie's done this before.
like this. Okay,
Yeah.
so meatball. But as the time wore on, and I was doing like maybe say this batch put together, the meatballs started looking like this.
Like giant meat.
Like, I just want to be done with these meatballs.
Here, can you show? Oh, you threw them in. I was gonna have you show us the difference.
Oh, well, you want me to show you
Yeah.
the difference again? Okay, so
It
here's
was like,
here's
wait.
like a normal sized meatball. This
Yeah.
is what I would start doing. But after about 45 minutes of doing meatballs, I'd look at the pan, and at one end of the pan would be a line of meatballs like this, and at the other end of the pan would be a line of meatballs like this.
So like a
They
little
would just
mini
grow.
meatloaf. You're
Yeah.
making meatloaf.
They would just grow and grow and grow, because I did not. I got tired of rolling them by hand, so that's why we give Kenzie this tool. You know, actually, Kenzie, if you can find the slightly smaller one,
Yeah.
the one that's just one, because that's a really big meatball. I tend to like my meatballs a little smaller, because if we have meatball subs,
Then we can put them in. Yeah.
they fit in the bread better and they don't roll out as much.
Is it smaller?
That one's perfect. Yes.
Oh,
Do you want to take?
Hang on, there's stuff in it.
Okay, wash it out, please. Also, thanks.
What?
It's all well. It's in a dusty drawer with a bunch of other baking
Well,
items.
no, I
so
mean, like there's chocolate on it.
Okay.
Or something.
Who made stuff with chocolate?
Don't look at me.
Okay, we're
Anyway.
teenagers. Okay, so she'll be making the meatloaf. You'll be making the meatloaf. She's making the meatballs.
Yep.
I'll go over there in a minute and film her making those meatballs. But where are you going from here?
I'm waiting for her to finish so I can wash my hands. Leave the water on, please. Thank you.
All yours.
And now she can take the meatballs.
Yeah, take the meat, please.
And don't forget your little. That's for you, Kenzie.
I know, I'm getting in a second.
Sorry, the incinerator was looking like it needed to be run there.
Oh,
Okay.
lovely.
All right.
We got Kenzie here making some meatballs. So she uses the little thing to measure them out. And then what do you do after that? You're gonna ball them up?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we got meatball. And we'll come back when they're finished. Thank you.
Okay, we're back again, and we're going to be adding the rest of the stuff to our meatloaf. We gave Kenzie the job of making meatballs, and so here we go. We're going to add our chilled veggies and mushrooms into the meatloaf mix. Here we go. I'm going to put this off to the side. And once again, I am going to crack an egg in here. There we go. And then I'm going to just start mixing this together. So once again, mixing it all together. And I'm going to warn you, this is going to look a little moist, but I don't have a problem with that. And actually, as you cook it, you will see a lot of liquid come out of this, but it's going to be really delicious at the end.
Looks really good even now, even raw.
So, one of the things that I just remember what it's called, I think. It's called a panade. The mix of milk and bread or milk and crumbs.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But what I also adding the tomatoes, the stewed tomatoes, adds another element of moisture to it as well as flavor.
Yeah, you want the meatballs dry and the meatloaf wet.
Right.
Right here, she's got her little pan. The reason why she leaves this paper over the edges is so when she's done cooking the meatloaf, she can pull it out easily to cut.
Exactly.
It may look like she's just bad at cutting, but it isn't that. It's on purpose.
Okay. So
I just said you were bad at cutting.
You know, it smells really good, and
It smells very herby.
it does. Not so much herby. I think that you're smelling probably the
Rosemary, I think, a little bit.
well, the rosemary's not in here.
The rosemary bread.
Oh, the rosemary bread. Yeah, there's not much rosemary in that bread though. I think what you're smelling is probably the Worcester sauce and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that all of the things are mixed very well together. So you can see that that's pretty moist looking. But that's going to be great because then we're not going to have a dried lump of meatloaf. So this is going to be a really big meatloaf, I have to say. I'm going to play it by ear. I'm going to start off with a little bit and see where I get to.
You could make it like the whole pan.
I could.
I know that you usually like it to be like a little round.
Yeah, well,
Oh, wait.
actually,
Get another pan. We'll make one for C and
that's
Ted.
what I was thinking. We can make one for the grandparents
Yeah.
because your grandfather loves meatloaf.
Well, maybe not C, but Ted will love it.
I thought Steve liked it.
It's got pork in it.
Oh, fair enough.
So, do I want to make a big one? No, you know, I think we'll leave it at that. I am going to move it down a little bit, though. Come on. Be cooperative.
Now, do you think the loaf came in because of the shape of it being like a bread loaf?
Well, can I tell you, a lot of people that I've seen when they make meatloaf, it's interesting because a lot of people will make it in a loaf pan, like the French, something. I think it probably came from the French originally because they make their pâtés and their things like that in loaf pans. I've always kind of made mine freehand. I like to have a lot of surface. As you can see, I kind of flatten it out. I like to have a lot of surface to put the ketchup. Yeah, we're going to use ketchup on this baby. And bacon. So I like to do that because I also like it to get nice and brown. So let me get another pan out and make another loaf. Next loaf up. This one's a little bit smaller, and that's okay because my parents don't eat that much, being elderly.
Might be mostly your dad, so.
That too. I have to tell you, though, yeah, sometimes it's really hard unless I decide to use ground turkey in a meatloaf.
Yeah, it's hard when you don't eat pork.
It is.
Because pork is a huge part of, like,
it's
burgers.
It's not for religious reasons or anything. It's just, she feels bad for the pigs.
I don't blame her. They have cute faces.
They do. You going to check on the meatballs?
Yeah, we're going to see what's going on with this little meatball.
Okay.
Kenzie, the little meatball. They look really good. They look pretty uniform. which is probably because she's using this little tool
It
right
really
here.
helps, let me tell you.
Yeah, it looks looking really good.
Once you start getting tired, you kind of lose the sense of what size those balls are supposed to be.
Yeah, because you get tired, you're just done. Meet the ball. Thank you, Kenzie.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so we got our meatloaf in the pans. And what I'm going to do, this is the first step. We are going to cover them with foil.
Is this to get them pretty well cooked?
Yeah, this cooks them well. And also, what will happen is there will be a lot of moisture in the pan. And it's kind of, maybe it's a dangerous way of making meatloaf. Because what I will do is I will take them out after about 45 minutes. I will drain the liquid off the pan. And then I will also take the foil off and put them in the brown before we put the ketchup and the bacon on them.
Yeah. Do you sometimes not use ketchup? Do you use your own sauce?
No, usually I use ketchup as a base.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I will add a little bit of brown sugar to the ketchup just to make it a little sweeter.
Yeah.
I have used barbecue sauce sometimes too. Like if you had a nice hickory bourbon barbecue sauce, that would probably be really good with the bacon.
Yeah. You're going to put them meatloafs in?
I am.
Get them in the oven.
Open that up.
And then it's the same temp for the meatloaf as the meatballs, right?
Right, 350. Because, I'll tell you a little bit more about the meatballs in a moment. Let me go ahead and get these meatloafs in.
Yeah, because it's 45 minutes.
45 minutes. And what I will tell you about the meatballs is you can cook them two ways. I like to cook them in the oven because I feel like they come out pretty even, and also because I am going to, actually I'm going to put it in for an hour.
And check it at 45.
Yeah. Anyway, on the meatball subject, you can brown them in the pan as well, but I figure for me anyway, it's easier to just pop them in the oven and cook them in there, and then like I said, I either put them in sauce or I cool them down and then freeze them and put them in sauce at a later time. So anyway, we've got some time to wait on that.
When do the meatballs go in?
They can go in anytime she's done.
You just set another timer?
I just set them on the bottom.
Nice. And you set another timer too?
No, I don't need, I probably will, but they're only going to take about 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, when we get back, we will be halfway through the meatloaf. And maybe the meatballs.
Yeah.
Meat extravaganza.
Pretty much. All right, we'll be back shortly. Just went off, and we are going to take these out of the oven carefully. Be careful because they've got a lot of liquid in them. Okay, set that down. Set the pan. And close the oven back up. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean here. Being very careful because of the steam. Now see, that didn't actually have too much liquid in there.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but if it had more liquid in it, I would actually pour some of it off. Actually, let me just
It's
check.
mostly in the back though.
Yeah,
See the liquid?
yeah. So I'll pour a little bit of that off. I'm going to take this foil away. And let's see what this one. So you can see there's a lot more liquid in this one. And so actually, I'm going to take this piece of foil first.
Well, this one's deceptive because it's hidden in the back here.
Yeah. So before it gets too crazy, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to use the foil to kind of hold it in place. And I'm just going to drain that off because that's just mainly liquid and a little bit of fat that is cooked out of the meat. I'm going to leave a little bit in there because I don't want it to be, I don't want the bottom to get too dry.
You can do the other one too because there's a little bit in there too.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden.
This one was a smaller one, so. Yeah, but you can see there was some in there.
It's looking good.
Yeah. Come on. Come on out of there. All right. Put that over here. Get rid of this foil. All right. So the next step for this is going to be, we want to put it in without the foil because we want to brown. We want to brown it a little bit. So just center this a little bit. There we go. And of course, this one is going to be done first because it's the smaller one, right? This one is a little bit bigger. It's going to take a little bit longer to do. So I'm just going to take these and put them back in.
How long do you put them in for?
I'll probably put them in for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then once they've browned up a little bit, I'm actually going to turn the oven up just a hair. Probably to like 400. And once they brown, I'll pour that off in a little bit. We will add the ketchup and we will put the bacon on it.
Yeah, and then it'll
bacon.
cook a little bit more, right?
Yeah, then you have to let the bacon set up.
When do we put the meatballs in?
We can put the meatballs in probably now, actually. I'll start putting some of them in. I'm not going to do the small one because I don't think it'll fit right. But we'll put these meatballs on the bottom. And then what I'll do is I'll take them out and flip them over with the tongs. Because I like, they're going to brown a lot more on the bottom since they're on the bottom rack. Mm-hmm. And then what we'll do is flip them over and let them brown some more. Take them out and then freeze them and put them in a bag.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a little bit.
Okay. So we've pulled the first pan of the meatballs out. And we're just going to set them off to the side here because I'm going to let them cool off. And then I will be putting them in the freezer and then putting them in a bag or container to keep for when I'm going to use them. We'll come over here. I've got the small meatloaf out because it is ready. And you can see it's browned up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I've actually taken, I didn't do just ketchup this time. I put a little bit of yellow mustard in here and a little bit of brown sugar and then the ketchup. And that's going to be our glaze for these. So I'm going to just take this and put some on here. Like smooth it out. Let it drizzle over the sides. You don't have to be super fancy with it. It's going to taste good regardless. I wish you guys could smell it as it is right now. It just smells really, really good. Okay, so I've got that on there, and now I'm going to take some bacon. And, I would recommend that you do a thinner sliced bacon. You can do thick, but I generally sort of pre-cook it a little bit because otherwise it just stays kind of rubbery. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting some bacon on here. And I like bacon, so this is going to get several different pieces on here. I've seen people wrap their whole meatloaf in bacon, and that's okay too. If you like bacon, go for it.
This way you get more bacon.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you wrap it the other way, but this is better.
Yeah, this covers the whole thing.
Yeah, and they're thick slices. Like, not thick and width, but like...
Right.
Yeah.
And this will also, I tend to like my bacon to get a little crispy on top, which is another reason why if you use thick bacon, you want to pre-cook it a little bit and get it a little bit crispy before you do that. So we're going to go ahead and put this one back in, and the other one should probably be ready. Let me take a look.
Yeah, your timer just went off.
Yeah, it did. But the problem with this one is that it was a little bit bigger. So I just want to make sure that it's where it needs to be. I think it is. There we go.
Meatloaf.
So we'll close that back up.
Low loaf.
Yeah. And then we're going to put this on.
Is meatloaf American?
No.
You said you think it's French.
Well, I don't know if it's French. I mean, pretty much every culture has some version of a loaf of meat.
Yeah, meaty loaf.
So, it's just one of those things that you kind of see everywhere, I think. Use the rest of this. And don't worry about the fact that I'm putting a lot on here, because what happens when you put it back in the oven,
It sucks up, right?
it actually it kind of, I don't know if sucks up is the word I would use, but it makes more of a hardened glaze a little bit. So we'll leave that. I'm gonna
Get some bacon.
get the bacon next. Bacon. Give me all the bacon. I'll put this a little bit over on the side here too. You know, I did a turkey like this once.
Did you with the ketchup?
No, with with the bacon. Thank you.
I know you didn't. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, I made a bacon blanket and put it on my Thanksgiving turkey. It was actually an after Thanksgiving turkey because unfortunately we've got some people in our family who prefer traditional stuff. And that's okay because that's pretty tasty too.
It was maple bacon. It was so good.
Yeah.
And I feel like it should be traditional.
Oh, the maple bacon on the turkey?
Yeah, it was very good. Very Canadian.
Right. So I think we're ready for that to go back in. And
How much longer do we have on this?
probably about another half an hour.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's cooking meatloaves.
Well,
Takes some
and your
time.
meatloaf is more special.
Yeah.
If you look in there, it looks like we got some meatballs.
Yeah,
in
we
there
got
too.
the last little bit of meatballs going in here.
Yeah.
Leave those in
Well,
there.
we'll be back when they're done.
Woo!
Woo, meatballs.
Okay, so today we made meatloaf and meatballs out of the same base meat mix. So what we're gonna do is I get to try the meatloaf, and Mackenzie here,
Hi.
my lovely taster, will get to try one of the meatballs. So I just want you to see how nice and moist that is. It just breaks apart. It's not tough, super tender. I'm sorry, I missed something. Perfect. The only thing this is missing is what we're gonna have with it later, which is mashed potatoes and corn. I love it with mashed potatoes and corn. And now, my friend here is gonna try one of the meatballs.
Any objections to me just eating the entire thing in one
Now
bite?
go and just keep your mouth closed when you chew. Good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? You think that'll be good in some sauce?
It's very good.
Up. All right. Hey, wait a minute. You ate one. There were two there. You've been sneaking in when we are doing stuff. Oh, no. Save the meatballs. Save the meatballs. Okay. So anyway, I hope you will try this recipe. It's very cool to use and very tasty as well. So we will see you next time. I hope you will like and subscribe and try some of our stuff. Yeah, it's good. Ah, no!